This card, what the fuck? This card, this bitch, how are you okay? How did anyone think that you were okay? Am I okay? I don't know if I'm okay. How are you okay? How am I okay? What's up, guys? Phoenix here. This video is going to be another Yu-Gi-Oh! Card review slash discussion, also possibly slash rant type video on Ariadne, the Absolver. This card that single-handedly has the potential, if we get Performer Pal Pendulum Wizard, to absolutely destroy the game as we know it come January. But basically, this card is what we would call in the business too good. Too good. This card would have been absolutely fine and would have still been amazingly good if its effects were once per turn. But its effects are not once per turn. So for those of you that do not know what this card does, this card is a key piece in the new Performage and Pal deck that is threatening us on the horizon. Again, should we get Performer Pal Pendulum Wizard imported in Breakers of Shadow in January. But even if we don't, this card still has an overarching sense of a hold on the metagame going from that point, because Luster Pendulum still exists, Wavering Eye still exists. There's still multiple cards that can trigger this card's effect. It's just not going to be as savage as it is with Pendulum Wizard. But again, for those of you that don't know what this card is or does, it is Ariadne the Absolver. It is a pendulum monster. It just happens to be a relevant scale, a scale 3, so you can definitely set up things to move around with luster pendulums and things of the like. But its effect is, you do not pay life points to activate counter trap cards. You do not discard cards to activate counter trap cards. That is its pendulum effect. So that already is really good. And to be honest, when this card was announced originally, I discounted this card as being something that probably won't see play. But then I read the card again, and its second effect, its overall generic effect, is what really gets this card to really shine. So its monster effect is, if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, does not matter from where, and it does not matter where it goes either. It can get bottomless and it will trigger its effect because it's getting it destroyed. You can reveal 3 counter trap cards from your deck. Have your opponent add one of them to your hand. Also shuffle the rest back into your deck. So your opponent gets to pick which one goes to your hand. It's not random or anything like that, but that's perfectly fine, because most of the time you're going to be revealing triple solemn off this card. You're going to be revealing either 3 solemn notice, 2 solemn notice, and a warning. I mean, if Konami really wanted to, they would make this card a secret rare, and then in order to push this card's price tag and the sales of the Breakers of Shadow set, they would bring Solemn Judgment back. Like, that's actually something I could see Konami doing on a future ban list that we get before January, since they can edit the ban list whenever they want. They could definitely just do that just to make it a quick cash grab, because people will have to pick up Solemn Judgments, which means possibly older sets will start selling. Even though Konami probably doesn't have a hand in that, I'm very doubtful that they do have a hand in any of the older sets that would just still be stocked by stores. But those sets will become more valuable in the people that need to get judgments, even though there are quite a few judgments in circulation. The secondary market will definitely inflate the price of Solemn Judgment just because it's a good card in general. But then this card could easily be made an ultra or a secret rare to be a chase card from the set, and thus make the card and Breakers of Shadow an even more expensive set and card than it needed to be, and I am going to cry on the inside of my soul where nobody can see it, manly tears. But like, this card can trigger multiple times in a turn, and that's absolutely insane. The Magispector cards, they can only trigger once, and they can search traps, one of which being a counter trap that works like Solemn Notice. In fact, its wording is exactly the same as Solemn Notice. But even then, it's still more fair than this card. What? Like, why did you restrict cards like Magispectors once per turn, but then you were gonna, like, make this card? This card is a prime example of Konami and R&D not doing their job of catching things early, because this card is ridiculous, and its pendulum effect is really good too. You do not pay life points to activate counter trap cards. You don't discard cards to activate counter trap cards. You pay no cost for counter trap cards. That's absolutely great. Like, if you are able to search multiple Solemns out of your deck, and then God forbid you're able to keep one of these in a Pendulum scale, which is actually pretty easy to do depending on what cards you have at your disposal in any deck based around Luster Pendulum and Performapal Pendulum Wizard and things like that. It's very easy for you to end with one of these in your Pendulum scale, so you'll have 2 to 3 Solemns down, and you don't have to pay life points to activate them. You already got them for free, and now they are actually free. That's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know if you know that, but I know that. Paying nothing for Solemn Warning is absolutely the dirtiest feeling. I've been doing nothing for the last 2 days but playing the Pepe deck, Perform Age and Pal. We refer to it as Pepe because PE is the first 2 letters of the name, and it's a meme, so it's hilarious. But regardless, I've been doing nothing but playing with that deck for the last 2 days on DEVpro, and the deck is ludicrously consistent. If you're not opening with triple counter traps, you're opening with Cyber Dragon Infinity. Sometimes you can open with 2 to 3 counter traps plus a Cyber Dragon Infinity. It's absolutely insane. When you don't have this card, you can have Perform Age Plush Fire. When you don't have Plush Fire, you can have this. When you don't have Luster Pendulum, you can have Wavering Eyes. When you don't have Wavering Eyes, you can have Perform Age Pendulum Wizard. When you don't have Pendulum Wizard, you can have Skull Crobat Joker. When you don't have that one, you have Monkey Board. There are so many cards, and there's so much overlap built into that deck that allows you to trigger all these cards. It's absolutely ridiculous, and this card is just a problem. This card should have been caught in R&D. There's no reason for Konami to have made this card and allowed this card to be printed unless they didn't test it. And that's a problem that I have with Konami as a company. Now, I know they're human. I know it is a company comprised of human beings. But your R&D team should be a bit bigger in order to have a bit more of a window to catch this kind of stuff, because then you wouldn't have to have so many ridiculous ban list hits. The Dragon Rulers was preventable. Genlock, preventable. There's so many preventable occurrences in the past of this game that could have been solved by Konami R&D having a bigger influence and having more potential to test with these cards. But nobody seems to want to do that. It took players literally seconds after this card was spoiled to figure out broken interactions with this card. And Pendulum Wizard, Luster Pendulum, Wavering Eyes, all these things. It took seasoned players one time reading this card. I did not leave the page when I read this card without understanding how ridiculously broken this card could be. But R&D somehow missed it, and that's what I meant when this video was probably going to go into a rant. I'm pretty sure you see where it's going with that. But overall, I don't see how this is acceptable. Ariadne, the Absolver, is an amazing card, and it would have been just as good if they had limited its destruction effect to once per turn. I don't understand. I could see Plush Fire not being once per turn, because that card's kind of fair, because all it does is allow you to get more monsters, and more monsters allow the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! To be played progressively faster. But this card has no reason to not be once per turn, and it abuses the same mechanic that Plush Fire abuses, which, to my defense on why Konami R&D should have caught this, Plush Fire has already been proven to have broken interactions with Pendulum Wizard and Luster Pendulum and Wavering Eyes. It's already been proven, and that was a card that came out 3 months before this card did. So even if this card had already been designed by that point, that's something that could have gone back and been reviewed and amended. The fact that this card isn't once per turn is ludicrous. It would have been an amazing card if it was once per turn, because you're still getting a free counter trap, which ideally you technically only need one to stop your opponent on your opponent's turn. Sure, more is great, but if you are a good player, you can use that one counter trap in the form of Solemn Warning, Solemn Notice, whatever you get given, to stop a mass Pendulum Summon, and that basically ends a Pendulum deck's turn, because the Pendulum Summon is such a heavily relied on mechanic in these new era decks. So the fact that you can get more than one is absolutely ridiculous, and the fact that you can just search 3 counter traps, and if your hand is good enough to support it, also end with a Cyber Dragon Infinity, your opponent starts with 2 cards going second. In theory. In the purest theory. I'm not going to make that as general a statement as I just did. In theory, you have 4 cards that negate 4 of their cards. In theory. Theory. I don't want to have some backlash from this. But, yeah. This should have been caught in R&D. This absolutely should have been caught because they printed a card called Plush Fire. And that card does the exact same thing as this, but it just summons monsters. And that is actually technically pretty fair because it's not the monster itself, it's not Plush Fire or the cards it's summoning out of the deck that are particularly broken. The clowns are good, but they're not broken. It's the rank 4 Xyz pool that they are accessing that is broken. That's what the problem is. And they dealt with that in the OCG by banning Tall Maze, thus making Infinity impossible for that deck to achieve. But they replaced it with this card that they should have caught in R&D. They should have caught it in R&D. I'm going to plow that point home. This card is a problem for the game, and I can easily see something happening to it, but it's definitely not going to happen to it unless, like, if this card is an Ultra or higher, nothing is going to happen to this card. Maybe Solemn Warning will get banned, but that's not even the problem. They're printing Solemn Notice, and Grand Horn of Heaven exists. You'll just replace one copy of Warning with another copy of Grand Horn, or just some other counter trap. Like, it's absolutely not a solution to ban Warning. It's not. You have to do something to this card specifically, but if this card is an Ultra or a Secret, it's definitely not going to get hit unless they emergency ban it, but they haven't emergency banned anything in almost a decade. And even what they emergency banned wasn't even new things. It was Dimension Fusion and Return from the different dimension. They E-banned Defusion, and they emergency limited Return to 1. Like, it's been since, like, what, 2007 since that happened. I'm losing my shit right now. Because this card, I've been spending nothing but the past 2 days just learning how broken this card is because I've been playing the deck. And, like, the mirror match is even degenerate. It's such a coin flip. If I went first and I can open a counter trap, congratulations, I win. What do you do about it? You don't. Hand traps are basically going to be mandatory to play against this deck. But even then, by the time you can hand trap their Pendulum Wizard, i.e. Veiler it, they have had the potential to at least pop one of these already with Luster Pendulum, depending on what their hand was. So that, even that doesn't solve the problem. There's just so many things. There's so many things that come into play as factors against this deck that don't actually solve the problem, and that's a problem in itself. But anyway, I want to know what you guys think about this card down below, and I also want to know if there's any other cards that you want me to talk about or review from Breakers of Shadow, or even the most recent set that we just got, Dimension of Chaos or Docs. If you have any cards from those 2 sets that you want me to talk about, definitely leave a comment down below or send me a message on Facebook. But anyway, as always, guys, thanks for watching. I don't know how long this video got, but I mean, I'm snapping a lot. I snap when I get, like, really triggered. I don't know why. I really don't know why. I talk with my hands a lot, and, like, I can't do a lot with my hands here, so I'm starting to snap. Hey. But anyway, as always, guys, thanks for watching. Comment, rate, subscribe, do all that nonsense. Like the video if you like the content I've been producing and want to support my channel's growth now, as well as in the future. Links are in the description to both my Facebook pages if you want to chat with me, connect with me, or whatever. Definitely go check those out. Click an ad if you have not. I'd greatly appreciate it. It helps me make money, and there's no reason to lie to you guys about that. But if you guys have an ad block enabled, do me a favor. Take the ad block off, refresh the video, click an ad or 2, however many you want, put the ad block back on when you're done. It takes seconds out of your day, takes no money out of your pocket, and it helps me out more than you could ever know, and I'd be greatly appreciative to you if you could do that. But if you're not going to do it, that's perfectly fine. Can't really force you, but just know that it helps me out a lot, and it would be a great way to support me right now if that's something you want to do. If you want to share your support, definitely do that. It would help me out more than you could ever know. I can't stress that enough. But anyway, as I've already said, suggest things in the comments down below of what you guys want me to review next. And also, give me your thoughts on what Konami could possibly do to this card, or the cards surrounding it, in the comments down below as well. Because I don't really see a feasible solution other than, like, dealing with this card directly. But there might be something I'm missing, as usual. But anyway, that's all for this video. And as always, guys, take care. Jesus Christ.